They told me the land was empty. They were wrong. The ground was still breathing. What you hear about till here was erased from maps, buried by Jimmy, and silenced by fear. This is not a ghost story. This is what happens when the land remembers. It was an old tale. One whispered in the dark corners of the southern Brazilian countryside, where the forest was as ancient as the earth itself. In the silence between the trees was heavy with secrets. In those days, few dared venture into the deep woods. The locals, with their superstitions and half-forgotten gods, spoke of a place called Cova do Engenho de Engenheiro S. Hollow, a desolate patch of land where the living were far outnumbered by the dead, and where time seemed to stretch into eternity. The story began with a man named Alfonso, a skilled engineer who came from the city in the early 1800s to build a sugar mill deep in the forest. He was a man of ambition, obsessed with the idea of turning the small village into a thriving sugar empire. He believed he could tame the wilderness, bend each to his will, and extract from each an endless stream of profit. But the land had other plans. From the moment Alfonso set foot in the hollow, the strange things began. It was not the jungle, as men had feared. No, the danger was far older than the trees. At night, the wind would carry with it strange whispers, soft, almost imperceptible, but growing louder as the days passed. The whispers seemed to come from beneath the earth, a cold breath calling up from the very depths of the hollow. Alfonso, dismissing the warnings of the locals, ignored the sense of unease that plagued his every step. He was too focused on the mill, too consumed by the desire to build something that would endure long after he was gone. As the workers began to clear the land, the whispers grew stronger. Then, on the third night, the first death occurred. It was one of the laborers, a young man named Miguel, who was found in the forest. His body contorted in a grotesque manner, his eyes wide open in terror. His face was frozen in an expression of pure dread, as though he had seen something that shadowed his very soul. The locals, superstitious as they were, believed it was the work of the spirits that dwelled in the hollow, a curse for disturbing the ancient land. But Alfonso, ever the rationalist, dismissed it as a tragic accident perhaps. The man had simply wandered too far. From camping succumbed, till the dangers of the wilderness. The next night, another worker vanished, then another. The deaths became more frequent, and the workers began to leave, fleeing into the night, too terrified to return. But Alfonso, driven by an obsession that bordered on madness, refused to abandon the project. He knew that if he could finish the mill, he would be rich beyond imagination. His name would be known across the land. But with each death, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, until one evening, when the sun dipped below the horizon, Alfonso ventured alone into the woods. He had to know, had to understand what was haunting the hollow. As he walked deeper into the forest, the air grew colder. The whispers, now a cacophony of voices, calling to him, pleading with him to stop. But he didn't. He couldn't. Not when he was so close. He reached the edge of a small clearing, and there, in the center, he saw an ancient stone altar, half hidden by the overgrowth. Blood stained the stones, and on the ground around each, the remnants of an old, half-rotten sacrificial offering. The remains of animals, their bones scattered as if he asked. And then, as his eyes adjusted to the dim light, Alfonso saw something that made his blood run cold. There, etched into the stones, were marking symbols that twisted and hit as if alive. They were not from any culture he knew, not from any known language. These were symbols older than Chime itself. And beneath them, carved into the stone in a script that made no sense to him, was a single word: vingança, vengeance. Suddenly, the ground beneath his feet trembled. The air grew heavy, thick with an oppressive energy. The whispers rose to a deafening roar, and it was when he saw it emerging from the shadows, a figure so dark, so twisted, that even now, speaking of it feels like a sin. It was not a man, nor was it a beast. It was something ancient, something born of the earth itself. It was the spirit of the land, angry and betrayed. Each had awoke after centuries of slumber. Ifosu tried to run, but his legs felt like lead. The creature was too fast, too powerful. Ichi reached out, its hand cold as death itself, and touched his chest. He felt the life drain from his body in an instant. His screams echoed through the forest, carried away by the wind. By morning, there was nothing left of Ifosu but his tools, scattered around the altar. The meal was never finished, the hollow remained cursed. But the story didn't end there. No, the whispers never stopped. They spread from the hollow, reaching the nearby village, and then farther, like a disease. Those who dared to venture too close to the forest were never seen again. Some say it was the land reclaiming what was rightfully its own. Others say it was the vengeance of an ancient being, angry at the trespasses of man. But one thing was certain, the hollow had claimed its price. Anyone who ventured into its depths would never return. Part 2. What THE land remembers. The hollow did not go silent after Ifosu's death. That was the first lie people told themselves. Years passed, decades even, but the forest around Cova do Engenho remained unnaturally alive. Trees grew twisted and bloated, their roots breaking through the soil like exposed veins. Animals avoided the area entirely. Birds would circle the edge of the forest, then turn back, as if something invisible barred their way. In their whispers, they never stopped. The nearby village learned to live with them. At night, when the air cooled and the world slowed, the whispers would rise from the direction of the hollow, soft at first, almost gentle, like someone speaking just beyond the edge of hearing. Parents learned to keep their children indoors after sunset. Doors were locked, windows shuttered. No one spoke of the hollow openly, but everyone feared it. Those who didn't last long. In the late 1800s, a new family arrived. They were outsiders, immigrants, the kind of people who didn't believe in curses or spirits or land that could hate you too cheaply. He believed the locals were ignorant, superstitious fools. He believed he could succeed where Ifosu failed. He brought his wife. He brought his children. He brought workers. Within weeks, the whispers returned louder than they had been in generations. The workers complained first. They said they heard their names being called from the forest. Not shouted, whispered, intimate, personal. One man swore he heard his dead mother crying for help. Another said he felt hands brushing against his ankles while he slept. Eduardo ignored them. Then the animals began to die. Cattle were found with their throats torn open, but not eaten. Chickens were ripped apart and left arranged in grotesque patterns. Dogs refused to leave the house, whimpering and scratching at doors as night approached. Eduardo still ignored it. Until his youngest son went missing. The boy was 7 years old, quiet, curious. He wandered toward the forest one afternoon and never came back. They searched for days, weeks. What they found was not a bud. It was pieces, small bones arranged carefully at the edge of the hollow, clean, stripped of flesh, placed in a circle around a symbol carved into the dirt, the same symbol Ifosu had seen on the stone altar decades earlier. That was when Eduardo finally listened. The villagers warned him to latch. They told him the truth they had buried for generations. Long before the engineer, long before the sugar mill, before the land had a name, all this forest was sacred, not holy, not benevolent. It was a prison. The indigenous people who lived there believed something ancient slept beneath the earth, a thing that fed on suffering, on blood, on broken promises. They didn't worship it. They contained it. They performed rituals, offerings, sacrifices not to please it, but to keep it asleep. When the colonizers came, they slaughtered those people, burned their villages, erased their knowledge, and with them, erased the rituals. The land remembered. That night, Eduardo tried to leave. He packed what he could, loaded the wagon, told his family they were going before sunset, but the forest didn't allow it. The road disappeared. No matter which direction they traveled, they found themselves circling back to the hollow. The trees closed in tighter each chimney. The whispers grew louder, no longer pretending to be kind. By the third night, Eduardo's wife was gone. No scream, no struggle, just an empty bed, in blood soaking into the wooden floor. Eduardo lost his mind after that. He ran into the forest screaming for forgiveness, promising anything, everything. He reached the old altar still standing, still stained dark despite the passing years. In there, carved deeper into the stone now, was a new message. TH land remembers. They found Eduardo days later, or what was left of him. His body had been hollowed out from the inside, skin intact, face frozen in absolute terror, as if something had crawled inside him. It worn him like a shell. After that, the village burned the path leading to the hollow. They erased each from maps. They stopped speaking its name entirely. But evildoers need to die when ignored. Each waits, each remembers. Because decades later, someone else would come looking for it. Someone who didn't believe the stories. Someone who needed the land. Someone who would wake it again. Part 3. TH Hollow never forgets. Did what it always does. It buried the truth beneath layers of dust, paperwork, in denial. By the early 2000s, Cova do Engenho no longer existed on official records. The forest had been renamed. The land rezoned. What was once feared became just another unprofitable stretch of wilderness on a government map. That was why Daniel Mosso found it. Daniel wasn't reckless. He was practical. A civil engineer contracted to survey forgotten land for potential development, wine farms, logging routes, maybe even a dam. He didn't care about legends. He cared about numbers, elevation, and soil integrity. The locals refused to guide him. That should have been the warning. They wouldn't even take his money, wouldn't say the name of the place. They just stared at him with hollow expressions. He said the same thing, over and over, "Don't you wake it." Daniel went anyway. The first night, nothing happened. The second night, he heard footsteps outside his tent, slow, heavy, circling. When he unzipped the flap, there was nothing there, only the trees, standing too close, as if they'd moved while he slept. On the third night, the whispers started. They didn't come from the forest. They came from underground, soft voices murmuring beneath the soil, speaking English, Portuguese, languages Daniel didn't recognize, all layered together, all saying the same thing: "We are stupid." Daniel told himself it was stress, fatigue, the mind playing tricks in isolation. Then he found the altar. It was larger than described in the old, fragmented reports. The stone was blackened, warm till the touch despite the cool air. The symbols pulsated faintly, like veins beneath skin. And something new had been carved there. Not a warning, a record. Names, hundreds of them, thousands, etched so deeply into the stone that Daniel realized, with growing horror, they hadn't been carved by tools. They had been carved by hands, human hands, fingernails. Every name belonged to someone who had entered the hollow, and never left. That night, Daniel dreamed. He stood inside the earth, surrounded by darkness. Bodies were stacked around him, men, women, children, empty-eyed and hollow. Their mouths opened in unison, speaking with one voice. "You broke the seals." He woke screaming. The ground was moving. The forest wasn't just alive, it was repositioning itself. Trees bent inward, roots tore free from the soil, dragging themselves like limbs. The path back was gone, replaced by this, breathing vegetation. And then he saw it, the thing beneath the land. It did not rise. It unfolded, a vast, shifting mass of bone, soil, eroding flesh, fused together by centuries of suffering. Faces pressed out from its surface, screaming silently. Limbs reached and withdrew, as if testing the air. It had no single form, because it was mad of everyone it had taken. It spoke without a mouth. "You remember us now." Daniel tried to run. The ground opened beneath him. Hands grabbed him, not pulling him though, but pulling him apartamento. He felt fingers slide beneath his skin, into his chest, his throat, his skull. He felt memories being torn from him, consumed. Not his body, his identity. The last thing Daniel understood was the truth the villagers had known all along. The land didn't kill, it absorbed. It needed people to remember it, to fear it, to speak of it. And when it was forgotten, it federação. Months later, the authorities found Daniel's equipment at the edge of the forest. No body, no blood, just his recorder, still functioning. The final audio file contained hours of silence. Then, at the very end, a whisper right against the microphone. We are not buried. The land was declared protected after that. Untouchable, forbidden. But forests don't need permission. Even now, if you stand at the edge of the place at night, you can hear it breathing beneath your feet, waiting, because one day, someone will forget again. And when they do, the hollow will open.